This is Bob Byrnes, Mayor of the City of Marshall. We're here with another COVID pandemic update for the Marshall region. This is actually the 7th update that we've done, and as in the previous updates, we'll update you on the current situation and what we expect, and also some recommendations that we have for the public. Earlier this afternoon, and I should say this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon approximately on April 8th, Wednesday. So what we say is, as of today, at this time, and of course, as we know, things will change. As tomorrow will probably be a little bit different than today. Earlier today, the governor did announce his decision to extend the stay-at-home order until May 4th. That's really a continuation of the situation that we have been in for the past almost 2 weeks. And I think residents of the city and in this region really are to be commended, because everyone has, for the most part, been really quite cooperative with that, recognizing the importance of the stay-at-home message, recognizing the serious consequences if we would not be doing this. So recognizing also that this is some sacrifices that our families and our businesses are making, but hopefully for the right reason as we do end up coming out of this situation. So the stay-at-home order is in effect for a few more weeks until May 4th, unless it is extended beyond that point. We fully recognize that this is difficult. This is the Easter season. This is a time when Easter Sunday, a lot of families get together, and simply we won't be able to do that this year. Because that's just not a good idea. We want to be able to celebrate next year, so we need to stay at home this year. I'd also finally recommend that not only stay home, but I know a number of us have family in South Dakota, and recognizing that there are differences between states, and while Minnesota has taken these actions, the state of South Dakota doesn't have a stay-at-home. So I think it would be in our best interest to avoid traveling to South Dakota. It just increases the risk of exposure where they haven't not been following the same procedures as in Minnesota. With me today is Director of Public Safety. Jim Marshall is also our Emergency Management Director. I'll turn it to Jim, and then Dr. Steve Meister, Chief Medical Officer at Avera and Marshall City Council member, will comment on some additional comments about the current health situation, and then I'll come back and talk about some other resources available for businesses as well as volunteer opportunities. So with that, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start by just making a few comments on some of the things that the Mayor had talked about, specifically about the stay-at-home order. We know when the governor first implemented the order, it was March 27th, and it's been extended to May 4th. Early on in our discussion, and usually I like to lead into this by just refocusing everybody to remind them of the purpose behind that order. And that's simply for the safety and well-being of everybody within the state of Minnesota. Before that order was implemented, the Mayor and I had a chance to talk a little bit about it, and we both identified that there's going to be some concerns and uncertainties that would exist within our community. Concerns regarding how it's going to impact us in our daily lives, and how that's going to impact businesses, as well as uncertainties and what that enforcement picture might look like. We had the opportunity to speak with some of our elected state officials early on, and shared our thought about the importance of education rather than enforcement. And that's really been reflective in the governor's order from the get-go. You can read the order, and throughout the order it talks about looking for voluntary compliance. And as the Mayor said, we've really seen that within our community. We do, however, have a few people that have expressed some concerns, and those concerns really exist around our recreational areas, on our playgrounds and basketball courts and football fields and soccer fields. And we continue just to ask the public and parents specifically to encourage your children to be mindful of those social distancing things that have been put in place. We know that there are some families that gather and have multiple people within their household, and we understand that, but we also understand that when you have groups of 20 to 30 people congregating, that's probably not the case. So there's always a balance in our role that has some inherent responsibilities to educate and to enforce those laws or ordinances, the state laws, as well as this executive order. So again, we're asking you for your help, parents, in educating our youth. We know that This probably doesn't impact our youth as much as it does older adults, but we also know that they can transmit this disease or pass it on to others. A second thing I'd just like to briefly talk about is volunteers. When we began our effort, we had numerous people calling in and wondering in which ways they could help us. One thing that we've done since the beginning of this is direct people towards the Department of Health. They have a site, it's called Minnesota Response, where you can register and sign up to volunteer within your area. We've also gone a step further, and we've created our own link on our city webpage, asking people that want to help to list maybe some of the things, their skills and areas where they're strong, as well as a little bit about their background. And we're going to take that list and we're going to work with Avera and identify ways in which we can continue to work close with Avera and strengthen those areas that we're going to need help in. And then the last thing that I'd just like to mention briefly is we're at a time when our youth are on their electronic devices all the time. And with that goes some concerns with them being easily moved into doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So again, this is to the parents. We encourage you to educate your children to watch what they're doing on those devices. And you go from the youth, then you go into the elderly part. And this is a thing that we've been seeing recently is people trying to manipulate our elderly population into giving financial contributions to things that they probably shouldn't be doing. Lately, we've had some requests made to grandparents from their grandchildren, fictitious grandchildren, into wiring them money. So again, we want you to just educate, be informed, communicate with your family, and be healthy.
So from a health standpoint, the Minnesota Department of Health website is a great website, and it is our source of truth in the medical community. If you go to that website, you now see that Marshall is pretty much surrounded by the COVID-19. We ourselves have 4 positive cases in Lyon County. There's at least 1 in the counties surrounding us immediately as of today. In that regard, the social distancing and the governor's orders have been slowing and dampening the curve, so it's not going to be as steep as we expected it to be. We are still expecting a surge, and the timing of that surge depends on whose models you look at. There's a couple of different models that we at Avera use. We have our own internal statisticians and experts. We use the University of Minnesota's model, and then there's a couple of other models, and they all have some variation, but they all expect the surge to be coming within the next couple of weeks and then lasting into the summer. In that regard, going back to what Mayor Byrnes said, this is the Easter weekend, and we are, as everybody is, meeting this head on with glee and joy that it's Easter, but sorrow and sadness that we can't spend time with our families. And again, I would reiterate what Mayor Byrnes said. This is not the time to be having huge gatherings. There's all sorts of ways with technology, as we are coming to you today, to meet and gather with your families, and I would encourage that you do that. If you are used to having a big 20-member family dinner, you have your 4 or 5-member dinner and hide the Easter eggs in your house, go around your own yard and hide your own Easter eggs for your kids and enjoy it that way. Again, if you feel sick, stay at home, cover your cough. You're going to start seeing more people utilizing masks. The American Surgeon General, Dr. Adams, has been recommending masking, and if you go to the CDC website or the Surgeon General's website, they even demonstrate how to make the masks with your own material. And so you're going to start seeing more people with masks, and that's okay. That'll help prevent us from shedding our viruses if we are asymptomatic carriers, and it'll help prevent it if you go through a cloud where somebody had just coughed recently. Remember that 30% of people who carry this are completely asymptomatic and are going to be just fine. And so people sometimes become complacent saying, we're not going to be the ones who get sick. And they may be right. However, they may bring it home to a grandparent or a parent or somebody who's not so old who has some immune deficiency issues or immune compromising chronic diseases that could really put them at danger and kill them. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So continue to do the great job that we as a community are doing. Try to enjoy Easter as well as we can, just in a little bit different way. And hopefully we continue to see the scariness of this disease decrease as our methods of fighting it are working. With that, I'll turn it back to Mayor Byrnes.
So I would just conclude with a couple of items. First off, this is a stay-at-home order. People can leave for essential business, essential items, for essential work. But beyond that, we ask people, as the governor has ordered, to stay at home. You can leave for exercise, walking pets, and for any essential things. Essential businesses remain open, as well as a number of other businesses are still doing business, but doing it in a different way, either online or delivery or curbside pickup. And we do encourage us at this time to support our local businesses. This is a difficult time for all of us, especially our small businesses. Our Economic Development Authority will be hosting a webinar with a number of resources available for small businesses. I believe that will be held on Friday, and folks can contact the EDA office for more information about that. That will cover not only the federal support and that is available through the Small Business Administration, but also local support through the Community Revolving Loan Fund. And that was actually just approved earlier today by the EDA. So again, thank you, Marshall. If people do have questions, medical questions, contact the Avera number. City of Marshall questions, contact the City of Marshall. And of course, public safety questions, contact our Marshall public safety numbers. With that, thank you. Have a blessed Easter.